What are you doing here? Oh, wait, I have an album review to do? Shoot. Oh, god damn. Alright, I gotta go get that done.
Hi everyone, Kyle Parker here, back at it again with another album review. And this week we are reviewing Muse's newest album, The WOW Signal. Before I get into it, yes, my face looks pretty red. I might have celebrated a little too hard for the USA's 250th and all that kind of stuff. I got a little sunburnt, you know, that's just how it is. It kind of hurts to move my face, so I'm not going to be as expressive. Not that I ever really was in a lot of my other videos, but who cares? Who cares, right? I digress. Let's just get right into it. The WOW Signal starts off with the song "The Dark Forest," which has a lot of these utilize a lot of these different timbres and textures that are kind of hard to describe. I've been trying to kind of figure out what the sound was, trying to kind of figure out how are they getting that sound, right? And then those textures kind of lead into a symphonic, synthesized kind of section, in which those sections are further reinforced by these choir vocals that are in the background, right? Then around the 2-minute and 20-second mark is this mix of really fuzzy guitar and choir. Had really nice little timbre change. And then around a 3-minute 30-second-ish mark is when the full band comes in, and that's where that whole mix and that whole sound kind of feels realized. There's all this build up happening into this climax for this one song, and it's okay, this is kind of what we're getting into, right? This kind of feels like listening to Take a Bow from their other album, Black Holes and Revelations. The bass, as always, is extremely prominent in the mix. Chris Wolstenholme is kicking ass as usual on those bass parts, and the drums are also very loud. The production, it's very clean and very not very raw. It's there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of compression and a lot of those types of effects going on. There's just so much going on in there, right? After that, there's this use of homophonic texture where, the guitar is playing melody, and then the choir and strings are kind of supplying the chords underneath. Kind of a nice little bit of a change of pace there a little bit. Night Shift Superstar marks a very significant stylistic change, which is they kind of go for more of an 80s kind of funk sound, which you hear a lot, and which if you've heard every album from Muse, it sounds a lot like some of the stuff they experimented with in The Second Law or Simulation Theory. But I feel like they did a really good job with this one. It feels like they actually had it fully realized and dialed in. And there's also this one part where there's these this piano part, and then there's these shrieking guitars and a few other songs, right? And there's also a lot of other influences in there, a lot of other things in there too. There's other songs like Cryogen, which have this very early Muse kind of sound, Origin of Symmetry-esque kind of vibe. I don't know if it's just because of the key that Cryogen is in, or maybe if it's just the production or the style of the writing. It just sounds so much like Origin of Symmetry, like Hyper Music or Plug-in Baby, right? I did have one little issue with Cryogen, and is that I felt like they kind of dragged the song out a little bit too long. I think they probably could have ended it around the 4-minute mark, but they kind of kept going with it. I think that last section was fine, but they could have either maybe moved it somewhere else, or maybe just took it out entirely. I just didn't see the point in that at all. It felt like they were the song was overstaying its welcome by this point. And then the next song that comes up right there is Be With You. Be With You is not a bad song, but I feel like out of all the other ones that we've heard up to this point, I feel like it's the weakest one. It's not necessarily a bad song. It has a decent progression, and Matt Bellamy's vocals, as always, sound absolutely amazing. But I just felt like there wasn't really that much for me to say about it. It just sounded kind of ballady in a way, and I was okay, this just doesn't sound that much different compared to everything else I've heard of them so far. It just doesn't, there's not that much I can really grasp onto. And then next up, there's Hexagons, right? Hexagons is probably by this point is probably my favorite song on the album. Hexagons has so much of those symphonic elements. They lean so much harder into that, and it genuinely feels cinematic as hell. And it just, like when you listen to it, just the way it like that song progresses is great. And then the transition into the next one, The Sickness in You and I, has like it's very heavy, kind of that goes back into that heavier metal sound, which they've been which they've already kind of have experimented with over the years, but with the past couple albums, especially on Will of the People, they've really started like leaning more into it. They've started really going like hard into that. I mean, they have like this 4 in the floor kind of boom, da, like that kind of sound, but then with that heavy drop D riff, I think it is, it just it really really gets you going. It really hooks you in. And then the transition into the very first single that they released for this album, Unraveling, which by the way is the first song where they use an 8-string guitar, is so great. That transition just felt so smooth. I mean, I loved the song when it first came out, but hearing it in the context of the album, it worked so much better. The transition was very seamless, and I love that. And just the chorus, it might actually be one of my favorite Muse choruses, like throughout their entire discography. I mean, there's so many different great ones, but that one song probably has one of my all-time favorite choruses. And then the next song that comes in is Hush. And Hush, I think, is the one that has the feature in there. I think it's Ellie Goulding or something. I'll have to probably correct myself in editing. But that was really great too. It was a nice juxtaposition from the really, really heavy stuff into something that's a little bit more mellow, and is more of like a calming, like a falling action kind of deal too. And then the album ends with the song Space Debris, which that in itself, when I first listened to it, I was trying to kind of feel out the meter for it. I still am not entirely sure what it is. I think it is 4/4, but it doesn't really feel like 4/4, which I love songs that love those kinds of songs. It is probably the most mellow song on that album. Something else I kind of want to mention too with Space Debris and a lot of different songs is that on the album is the use of noise in the background. A lot of that noise, which, considering what the album title is, The WOW Signal is based on a signal that was intercepted that came from space, it really makes you feel like you're in space, like you're in that sense of free fall. And I love those little details that they add to make you feel like you're in that type of environment, especially when you combine it with all those symphonic elements, the synthesizers, the rock band, the actual band itself, like Matt Bellamy, Chris Wilson-Home, and Dominic, and them guys, right? That just, it works really well. And especially, I love the cello arrangements on Space Debris. It adds a certain darkness and a bittersweetness to that whole song. And just overall, I thought that they ended it on a really good note. Separating my bias for this band, which, by the way, I should mention, they are one of my favorite bands of all time. I've listened to every single album from them. There is just so much to dissect here. Everything from the production techniques they use to get the types of sounds that they get, to the way they write the songs, is insane. And yeah, even the songs I didn't really care for as much, which the one song I didn't care for as much was Be With You, they're still great songs. Compared to everything that they've released after The Resistance, it really feels like they took everything they learned from The Second Law, Drones, Simulation Theory, and Will of the People, and they took all those different things that they experimented with, and they really went all in, and they're like, we need to make this the best thing that we possibly can. Like this, we need to make our fans happy. We need to actually show, like, hey, we still got it after all these years. And yeah, I think they nearly perfected it, other than those slight issues that I had, which obviously personal, those are just more nitpicks on my part. I would rate this album a 9.7 out of 10. Anyway, that's it for this album review. I got some more stuff going on this week, and yeah, I'm gonna go and play some guitar now. Bye.